Oh wow, we're on our own at Disney World and we've got money in our pockets and welcome back travel fans. I'm Morgan from the very unofficial travel guides, and like I said last Sunday, it's time again for another Sunday story time, a video full of tangents and facts and stories about my life, about my travel experiences around the world. And there's something I need to tell you in advance, and I'm sure you're wondering about it already. You're asking yourself, Morgan, where is the red sofa? And it's back home in Germany, and I'm not there right now. I'm at my dad's house in Portland, Oregon, and there is no red sofa here. There is a green sofa and a white sofa, but they're in very dark places of the house. So I'm sitting here in front of the fire because this is the warmest and lightest place I could find. Another thing I wanted to tell you is last week when I said that next week I'm going to be going back to Sunday Storytime, I didn't realize. I said I was going to be doing 5 weeks of 5 things videos, and I only did 4. So I'm also going to be doing another 5 things video today as well. So you've got all sorts of fun things to look forward to. And today, because I'm here, I wanted to tell you about my first real Disney vacation. I have done a video already about my first trip to Disney World, and that was just like a 1-day visit. And if you want to check that out, it's linked in the description below. Like always, I hope I remember to do it. If I didn't, then somebody remind me. And that was when I was in like 5th grade. And when I graduated from college, my dad and his wife took me and my sister to Disney for like a real vacation. We stayed for 5 nights, and we stayed at the Port Orleans, which was then called Dixie Landings. And I want to tell you about some of my memories from that time, and I can show you a really funny old picture. I was obsessed with Disney World and theme parks in general in high school, and ever since that first visit to Disney in like 5th or 6th grade, I definitely wanted to go back because, like I mentioned in the other video, I felt like we missed a lot of things, or that there were things that I wanted to do that we didn't get to do, and I knew that there was so much more to see, and I really just was like obsessed with someday going back. And so you can imagine how excited I was when I graduated from high school and my dad told me, we're going to Disney World. It sounds crazy, but it literally was a dream come true. I was so excited to go back there. And by that time I had ridden roller coasters. I was, tall enough to do all the big rides, and I was just really, really psyched about finally getting to go to Disney World. And remember, at this point, I was 17 or close to 18, and I still had not ridden Big Thunder Mountain. So anybody who watches a lot of my videos or hears me talk about Disney knows what that means. I had been to Disney World before, but I had not yet ridden Big Thunder Mountain. I don't remember much about the flight there. I don't really remember much about checking into the hotel. I don't remember like the order of what we did on each day, or even if we went to each park each day. But I'll just tell you a couple of the things I remember about this experience. One is, I remember that was the first time that we realized that when you're staying on a Disney property, you don't need a rental car. We had a rental car to get from the airport to the Dixie Landings, and then it stayed in the hotel. I'm pretty sure the rest of the stayed in the hotel parking lot. I'm pretty sure the rest of the trip, because we just got up early and got on the Disney transportation buses and took it to the parks and came back. And we were fascinated by that and thought, this is such a good idea. How fantastic and how convenient. And we had these little rituals that we would do, and I remember that. But I remember the first day taking the bus to the TTC and then taking the ferry boat over to the ticket booths at the Magic Kingdom. And I remember my dad saying we wanted to buy, I think it was a 4-day park hopper pass for 4 people, and it being over $500, and my sister and I being like, oh my gosh, this is so much money. And I mean, it was a lot of money then, but think of what a 4-day, 4-person park hopper pass would cost now. I remember that probably the first 2 things we did were go to Space Mountain and go on Big Thunder Mountain, because those were the 2 things that since years I regretted not doing when I was there the first time as a kid, and I just was obsessed about completing these 2 goals that I had. And I don't know how to describe it, to think about how long I obsessed about getting on these two rides. I don't know. Do you have anything to compare, or like anything that is similar to that? Like I said in the other video, when we were at Disney the first time when I was a younger kid, I always kind of regretted not being, not having enough courage to go on Big Thunder Mountain and to go on Space Mountain. And then it took, what is that? It took like 8 years to go back there and finally be like, yes, this time I'm gonna do it. So those were really, really big moments in the life of theme park enthusiast and roller coaster enthusiast Morgan O'Brien. The first time riding Space Mountain and the first time riding Big Thunder Mountain. And both of them totally topped my expectations of what it would be like. I was kind of worried, or a lot of times when you spend so much time looking forward to something, kind of like I'm looking forward to the next Star Wars film now, there's no way it will be as good as your fantasy, your idea of what it could or should be like. But this time, both blew me out of the water, or blew my expectations out of the water, and I was so happy. Speaking of Big Thunder Mountain, there's one thing that I remember, one really special moment. I was talking with my parents about this last night. After the second day of going like from morning till night, my parents realized that, we were cool sort of going off on our own, and they didn't have to hang around with us all day. I mean, I was like 18 and my sister would have been like 15 or 16, and we knew how to get to the hotel, we knew how to get to the parks and all that, and we had our, our allowance money. I think it was the third day that they left us to sort of go off on our own, and we were like, oh wow, we're on our own at Disney World and we've got money in our pockets, and it was just a really cool experience. And I remember that we kept just, going to the same rides over and over and over. And it was Big Thunder Mountain and Space Mountain, and I think Pirates of the Caribbean. Splash Mountain was built at the time, but it was not yet open to the public. So we kind of missed that. But so the special memory I wanted to tell you was, it was hot. It was in the middle of the summer, and I just remember walking around and just dripping sweat and being like, oh my gosh, it's so hot. And we were in line for Big Thunder Mountain, and it was a particularly long line. And if you've been to Big Thunder Mountain in Florida, or actually I think all of the Big Thunder Mountains except, well, at least in Paris and in Florida, you wait in this big old, like mining building, and the second part of the line goes down sort of like underground, and that's where or down to the lower level, and that's where you get onto the trains, the wildest ride in the wilderness. And so I don't know what was going on, but for whatever reason, the line was taking really long, and we were in sort of like the inside part where you can't see outside for an especially long amount of time, and we were just sweating. We were just like, I remember hanging on my sister being like, oh God, I'm so hot. And finally, it was time to get in the trains, and the whole thing starts out, inside, underground, and then you go up the lift hill. And I remember when we came out of the first lift hill, around that first left-hand corner, we realized it had started it was like a thunderstorm. It was like a torrential downpour. And my sister and I were like, oh my gosh, because we just, after the first 2 seconds outside, we were just soaking wet. It was like being in a thunderstorm. And that is a memory that I just will always, I don't know, there was something so special about that surprise moment where not only were we like, oh, finally it's not so hot anymore, but we were just on, I had just graduated from high school, we were walking around Disney World on our own, and then all of a sudden we were just soaking wet on this really awesome roller coaster. And I don't know, that's just a really, really special moment. My sister and I talk about it all the time. And someday, I really hope to get back to Disney World so I can try to sort of recreate that moment with my sister, even if, nowadays I wouldn't be so upset if we just left the torrential downpour out of that. So that was one really big memory. Another thing that I remember is, that was before Fast Passes, but I remember that we tried to sort of work the system, and I remember I had read one of, I think, Steve Birnbaum's books about Unofficial Guide to Disney World or whatever, so we knew that I think on the first day we went to see the parade show, and then after that we never saw it again, and we always used that time to go like to the big rides to avoid the long lines. That was one of the tips I remember reading. I also remember reading that if a line had a right and a left side, always go to the left side, because Americans tend to go to the right side, and that's the one that gets more crowded. And I still think that's relevant, although, you know, nowadays so many international people go to the Disney parks. Another thing, at that time, and the year would have been 92, there was the Magic Kingdom, there was Epcot, and at that time it was called Disney MGM Studios, was also open. And I know this sounds crazy, but we did not go to MGM Studios. We could have. My sister and I had a couple days where we just went off and did whatever we wanted, and we never did it. I think we ended up spending most of our time in the Magic Kingdom, and then we spent a couple half days at Epcot. And I know that was back with the old version of Illuminations, which I prefer better, where each country around the lagoon got its own moment. And so like if you sat in front of Mexico, when it was Mexico's time, then everybody in Mexico was like, yay! Or if you sat in front of the USA, or if you sat in front of Italy, there was a moment that each nation had with its own music and its own fireworks, and it was cool to like sit in front of that country and be like part of the cheering team. I don't know. And so we brought a blanket with, and somebody was always, you know, it was either my dad or his wife, my other mother, Linda, that would then like, you know, set up our blanket and reserve our space right on the edge of the lagoon. And we picked out different countries to do it in. And I think we went to see Illuminations probably 3, if not 4 times. There were no magic bands back then, of course, and there were also no, the tickets that we got were paper. And I'm sure I still have that someplace. I wonder if it's here in this house. But the paper tickets had like a magnetic strip on them. And you could use that to charge things to the room. And my sister and I found that out on like the 2nd or 3rd day, and we started to do it. We never asked for permission, and I remember feeling like, okay, this could go all wrong, but we only used it for food. We didn't like buy t-shirts or anything that wasn't, you know, sort of necessary. And I mean, we did have pocket money, we had our allowance, but we just started to use that to buy our lunches, I think, so that we could use our money for the fun things like ice cream or, you know, souvenirs or whatever. So in 92, there was already the possibility to charge things to your room using your ticket, but the ticket was like a paper thing. All right, I just want to show you this one funny picture that my parents have up on their refrigerator. It's back here right now. This is me and my dad and my sister on Main Street, way back there in 1992. And you know what's interesting about this is when you look at this, I'm taller than my dad now. So that'll give you an idea of how much I grew after I graduated high school. Yeah, but look at the shirt, look at the hair, look at the socks. It was the 90s. All right, that's my story time for today here in front of the fireplace. I've got a very warm neck now, and thanks for watching. Thank you to all the VIPs over on Patreon here who give me a little bit of extra support. And if you don't know, I post videos over there that I don't post anywhere else, and I also have posted some Disney memory videos over there and some things that have been cut from Disney Storytime videos or Disney vlog videos from being there. So if you want to see those, go over to Patreon and sign up for one of the membership things. And be sure to tune in later, because I'm going to try to post my 5 things video from today as well. And it's going to be 5 things I miss about the United States. See you next time.